Hello again, Bat fans! In this episode, we will check out the new origin story of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. It's a rainy night in Gotham City, and a criminal is running away with some stolen items. Batgirl is chasing the criminal, but she only manages to grab the man's mask before the thug vanishes in thin air. Batgirl managed to see the man's face, and thanks to her photographic memory, she will not forget that face. In fact, Barbara Gordon remembers every face she has ever seen, starting with that of her own mother. Her name was Thelma, but she died in a car crash when Barbara was only a toddler. Batgirl continues tracking the criminal, using the infrared device on her cowl, and starts following the man's footsteps. While she does that, more memories come to her mind. Her childhood was normal thanks to a friend called Marcy and to her father, Roger Gordon. He had to raise Barbara by himself, and he was the one who encouraged Barbara to always be a hero. As a kid, Barbara wanted to be Supergirl, but her daydreaming was disturbed because her father became an alcoholic. When the young Barbara tried to call her Uncle James to ask for help, Roger Gordon smacked her, telling her he didn't need help from his brother. However, that was the alcohol talking, because when Roger was sober, he was a very loving and caring father. Unfortunately, a few years later, his problems went too far and he died, leaving Barbara as an orphan. The 13-year-old Barbara had to say goodbye to her best friend Marcy as she moved to Gotham City to live with her only living relative, James Gordon. The only thing Barbara was excited about the whole thing was the idea of being in the same city as the mysterious hero known as Batman. Like this, Jim Gordon became Barbara's guardian and took her with him back home to live with his wife Barbara and their son James Jr. In order to avoid confusion, the teenage Barbara was called Babs, and that became her nickname from that day onwards. The Gordons eventually adopted Barbara and she became their official daughter. Babs was a very curious and active teenager, always studying her father's police documents and spying his conversations with other cops. One night, Barbara was reading Jim's private files on his study when she heard him coming. Babs hid behind a bookshelf and watched from a dark corner how her father opened a window to let Batman inside. The two men discussed serious issues, but Barbara was too shocked to listen. She had finally met one of the heroes she had always admired, and thanks to a warning note left by Batman after the conversation with Gordon, Babs became inspired and started training to become Batgirl. Like this, Babs started learning karate. She memorized the entire map of Gotham City. She became a perfect student and a perfect athlete. Babs graduated high school at age 16 and started working as head librarian at the public library while she attended college. Around that time, the GCPD were throwing a masquerade ball, to which Babs was planning to go dressed up as her childhood dream, Batgirl. But Babs kept this a secret from her father and told him she was not interested in going, in order to surprise him with her disguise. However, on her way to the party, Barbara came across Killer Moth and his gang, who were attacking Bruce Wayne. Wearing her Batgirl costume, Babs jumped in and took down the Moth gang before Batman showed up and told her to stop pretending being a crime fighter. Batman was certainly rude to her, and Barbara didn't like the cruelty of Batman's words. In order to prove him wrong, she decided to become a serious crime fighter. For a few years, Batgirl gained a reputation in Gotham City, but Barbara needed new challenges, and not long after that, she decided to run for Congress, leaving Gotham City for Washington. However, she was in office only for one term, and she was not re-elected. When Babs returned to Gotham, she resumed her activities as Batgirl, stronger than before. In those years, she had many crazy adventures, and even started to flirt with Batman's sidekick, Robin, despite the fact that he was younger than her. But her toughest experience was her confrontation with a criminal called Cormorant, who prepared a master plan to eliminate Batgirl and almost succeeded. That was Batgirl's greatest failure, but it helped her become stronger and tougher and better each day. Finally, Batgirl has located the mysterious criminal thanks to her infrared visors and captures him using the Batrobe. Batgirl learns that the thief is just a teenager who managed to create an invisibility suit and was testing it out by taking other people's things. Batgirl realizes that the young man is a misguided genius, and she allows him to go after retrieving these stolen items and making him promise to never do it again. After all, Barbara Gordon firmly believes in second chances, and she will continue her work as Batgirl until the day she is not needed anymore. That was the new origin story for Barbara Gordon as Batgirl after the Crisis on Infinite Earths rebooted the continuity. I think this is an interesting Batgirl story, but this new origin is not exactly a hard reboot as the new origins for Batman and Jason Todd. For instance, almost everything in Barbara's life, from her photographic memory, being an excellent student, working at the library, then in Congress, and even her encounters with criminals, were all taken directly from the old Batgirl stories in the previous continuity. The only thing they didn't include in this new origin was her relationship with the private detective of Gotham City, Jason Bard, which happened in the early Batgirl stories of the Bronze Age. But of course, the most significant change was that of her parents, because in Batman Year 1, James Gordon is not the father of Barbara. DC needed to find a way to recreate her origin with new parents. Obviously, the most logical choice was to make her James Gordon's niece, whose parents died and was adopted by the police commissioner. But I think that was kind of a timid approach. DC was struggling to keep Batgirl as part of their notable characters. Her stories simply disappeared in the last years of the Bronze Age, and after the Crisis, it almost feels like DC was thinking, hey, we need to reboot her origin, but we don't want to take much effort or give it much thought, so let's just change the most basic things and be done with it. That's how this new origin feels like. But don't get me wrong, even though they didn't show many new things and didn't make groundbreaking developments, it still showed that they cared for Batgirl. In fact, there is something very important about this story, and that is the fact that it was written by the first and only female writer to ever create a script for Batgirl until then. Her name was Barbara Randall, and she wrote a couple of Batgirl stories in the Bronze Age, when nobody else wanted to write Batgirl stories. So giving her the chance to create the new Batgirl origin was just the right thing to do. Plus, her name is Barbara. It was just the perfect match. The art of the story was exactly what I want from a Batgirl comic. Clear shapes, defined lines, and overall clean art. It's very nice. One of the things I liked about this story is how Barbara was portrayed as a genius. She didn't have the money of Bruce Wayne, and yet she managed to create a functional batsuit with her own set of infrared visors in her cowl, and it makes her look so damn cool. It is important to mention that this origin story has since been replaced by the most popular version, Batgirl Year 1. But for some years, this was Batgirl's official new origin. Another nice detail was the mention to her short relationship with Dick Grayson, which really gets to me because Babs and Dick are my favorite couple in the DC universe. And speaking of the boy wonder, in the next episode we will check out the training and the first case of Jason Todd as the new Robin. For that and many more Batman videos, subscribe now and don't forget to leave a like. Until then, Godspeed my friends.